Marvel fans and Avenger fans around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Marvel and Tamashii Nation presents Behind the Cover, Marvel's new comic sensation, Tech on Avengers. In celebration of the launch of Tech on Avengers, which is a collaboration between Marvel Comics and Bandai Spirit's figure brand Tamashii Nations, this is a talk show that will bring you, the fans, the latest information. Key members of the project will share behind-the-scenes stories about the project's conception that you won't hear anywhere else, and the most up-to-date info on the comics and figures. I'm Gaetano Totaro, and I'll be your host. Now, let me introduce our amazing guests today. First, we have the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, Mr. C.B.Cebulski.
Hey, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today and hope you get some great information about the amazing Tech on Avengers.
Thank you very much, CB. Now, we have Marvel Comics editor, Mr. Thomas Brevoort, or Tom Brevoort.
Happy to be here and share everything Avengers Tech on with the fans, and hopefully we'll entertain you a little bit in the course of this adventure. Great.
Now let me introduce manga artist Mr. Eiichi Shimizu, who designed the suits for the Tech on Avengers.
Yes, I was in charge of the suits design. My name is Shimizu. Nice to meet you all.
Next, we have two people who are involved in the development of Bandai Spirit's S.H.Figuarts. First, Mr. Julian Oreska, who handles R&D of S.H.Figuarts Marvel series.
Hey everybody, we can't wait for you all to get the S.H.Figuarts Tech on Avengers series in your hands.
Thank you. And we also have Mr. Ryo Konishi.
I work together with Oreska. I am also in charge of this project. Nice to meet you all.
It is a real thrill to bring you these 5 amazing guests, and I hope you all enjoy it as much as I will. First, let me go over the Tech on Avengers project with you all. The idea came about at Bandai in 2011. The project takes characters from the comics and turns them into S.H.Figuarts products. The story takes place a year after the Avengers destroy Thanos' Infinity Stone. Now the universe is filled with unstable Infinity Stone particles, and Red Skull harnesses their enormous power to create a barrier around the world that nullifies the hero's superpowers. The world is thrown into chaos and villains go on a rampage, but the heroes strike back using Tony Stark's new creation, power suits, upgraded with DH10. Now, let's start by talking with CB and Tom about this. Do you guys remember about when Tech on Avengers first started?
Wow, I remember it being many years ago, but I did not realize that it was 10 years ago until you just recapped that history. So it's been a decade, and for us to be working on this amazing project. And I do remember so many of the amazing meetings. But I think that it's just going to be. We're going to hope that the 10 years worth of effort that we put into this is going to pay off to the fans when they read the comic and they get the amazing toys that Bandai and Tamashii Nations have created.
I'm sure it will. How about you, Tom?
I would have come into this slightly later than CB did, although he and I did do a meeting at Bandai in, I want to say, 2017, where we met with the development team and they began to present their ideas for what they envisioned. And we began the process of uniting the qualities that the Tamashii Nation lines and the Marvel franchises have into a singular whole that would be true to both brands.
Awesome. Now, is there anything...
I remember over the years, Tom, sorry to cut you off there.
No, please.
Some of the configurations we went through on this as well, with different characters and different storylines and different villains, until we hit on this combination that is now in the actual the Tech on Avengers.
Awesome. Now, is there anything in particular that you worked on that is special for you, or anything that you want the viewers to really pay attention to or watch out for in the new series?
Well, I think the real challenge of it, from my point of view, I'm a Marvel person, obviously, and I've been devoted to putting together Marvel comics and specifically the Avengers comics for 20 years now, and so I wanted this to while it is connected to this line of figures, I wanted it to truly represent the essence of the Avengers and the essence of Marvel, and for a Marvel fan who comes to it and hasn't experienced anything else before, to be able to enjoy these stories and for them to be just as exciting and engaging and thrilling as any other Avengers story that we might do, to make it true to the real Marvel spirit and the Marvel universe.
And I'm sure they will. Now, the new setting
definitely.
The new setting takes place in a world that's a year after the Infinity Stone has been destroyed. Tom, how did the idea for this story and the setting come about?
My memory is that there were a couple of different avenues that were tossed back and forth, but especially after the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame movies, obviously Thanos and the story of the Infinity Stones was foremost on everybody's mind, and so tapping into that mythology a little bit and using that to kind of ground this line of figures and key the story into something that all Avengers fans would know, regardless of where in the world they happen to be, seemed like it made a lot of sense.
That's interesting because, of course, MCU Phase 3 comes to mind to everyone when talking about the Infinity Stone. But was the story already decided on when MCU Adventure Endgame was announced?
I'm sketchy on the time. Do you remember, CB?
No, I don't remember the exact timing on this, but I remember, that Thanos was a part of it from very early on, I believe. So, I think we had hit on him. Julian, any memory on your part of how that came about?
Yeah, I think we had actually talked about the core casts from the outset, so which kind of heroes that we wanted to include and which villains we were thinking of. And then the story did kind of materialize from there. I know we had also talked about Red Skull being a key character early on, but I think we did talk about Thanos around the time the films were coming out, and how that his, the power of the Infinity Stones would be a good sort of impetus for the whole story to be set in motion, just kind of having something very powerful that had been in this universe that the Take on Avengers is taking place in. And then from out from that universe, the heroes have to struggle with, losing their powers and things like that.
That makes lots of sense. Julian, you're in charge of developing the figures. I hear you're a big Marvel fan, so could you tell us how you feel about joining this project?
Oh, absolutely. And, from the very beginning, when we started talking with Marvel about where we would take this, as a big Marvel fan myself, you're always kind of a little bit reticent to want to change things, or you want to keep certain elements from the classic designs that have always been there in the designs going forward. So when we first started talking about this, I was kind of thinking myself, how are we going to possibly make, the heroes into these kind of Iron Man powered suit concepts, but also, keep them true to their authentic comic appearances. And so we went actually through a lot of different variations of design, but we wanted to include some of the kind of, in Japanese, they call it tokusatsu, the kind of special effects, live action hero shows. We wanted to include a little bit of, homages to that while still keeping their comic looks intact. And that's kind of where we came to the DH10, the Dohatsu 10 mode for the characters, to kind of have them have this transformation aspect in their designs, from changing from kind of an armored look that is very close to Iron Man to then, when they go into their DH10 mode, all of a sudden all of their powers from their original comic look come out. And I think that was something early on that we thought would be a cool way to incorporate sort of both styles into the character design.
Awesome. Now let's switch over to our guests here in Japan. Shimizu Sensei, what was your first impression when you learned about the story?
Well, simply speaking, I thought it's going to be really fun. But more so than that, by knowing all the characters that are available, I was so excited that I would be able to design all these great characters.
And Konishi-san, how about you?
Thank you. Well, in this story, the suits of each and every characters are quite attractive, and therefore, especially for the Japanese young fans here, I would also say that the attractive design that Mr. Shimizu designed is going to be conveyed to all the fans around the world.
Thank you very much. Now let's jump back to our guests in America and talk about the characters. So these are the main characters of Tech on Avengers. We have Iron Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Red Skull, Loki, and Venom. The story unfolds with these main characters. Now, the question is, do you have any favorite characters? And feel free to answer outside of this group. Let's start with CB.
Always... Go ahead, CB.
All right. Well, you know, for me, you know, I grew up an X-Men fan. So, you know, for me, Wolverine is one of my favorite characters of all time in the Marvel Universe. And, you know, just seeing him come to life as, you know, one of these Tech on Avengers, because he is an Avenger as well. He's on a couple teams. Wolverine can be everywhere at once. You know, just seeing the role he plays on the team, the role he plays in the story, and then, you know, when you get the figure, you know, some of the amazing designs that Shimizu Sensei turned in for Wolverine and the DH10 power and the claws. It was just some fantastic stuff that we're going to be showcasing here.
Thanks. How about you, Tom?
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I can't pick one out of the others, particularly since the whole idea of the Avengers is for these characters to be together, and so individually they're just not Avengers. They're just a single superhero, great on their own, but better together. That having been said, having seen the Iron Man Tech-On figure up close and gotten to study it, I love that design. I think it looks super cool. The figure is wonderfully articulated. It has all of these terrific extras where the various verniers have thrust attachments, and the various repulsor rays and weapons have things that you can pop out on them. So just, you know, completely from a design and you know, toy modeling standpoint, I would say Iron Man, but that's probably simply because that's the only one that I've seen in real life so far.
All right. And Julian, how about you?
Yeah, so I think from the hero side, I would probably say this time, probably my favorite character, both in the comics, the way he shows up in the comics, this comic series, and also just kind of in design, is probably going to be Black Panther. I really like the way he kind of turned out, and you'll see in the comics too, kind of what his powers are going to be in this suit, but kind of a very nice sort of sleek black design, which is, you know, basically how he's always been in the comic books. But when that becomes kind of a metallic design, the way the kind of armor panels have different sheens of black and, you know, matte black. So I think we're going to try to make the figure as close to that as we can get, and I think it'll be pretty impressive when it's a finished piece. Probably from the villain side, I would say Loki, because we did try to add in sort of his frost giant, or you know, kind of a little bit of a monstrous look to him, which is not usually something you see with Loki, but I think that too is going to be something fans will enjoy seeing in the comics.
Awesome. Now, a few days ago, we solicited questions from our fans on the official Instagram page of Tamashii Nations. And let's just jump right into those. Why did you guys choose to do this type of Avengers story? And again, we'll start with CB, if that's okay.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's just such a natural collaboration. You know, a lot of people always talk about the differences between kind of what Marvel is and what manga is, or what American comic book culture is and what Japanese, you know, the pop culture is. And there's so many more similarities, I think, that people tend to forget. And that was the spirit of this collaboration. Let's take these two entertainment giants, you know, Marvel, you know, this best superhero comic book company in the world, Bandai, the greatest toy company in the world, and kind of put our minds together, put our creative juices together, take these kind of things that we are best known for and combine them and make them into something that is going to be so special to fans of both our brands. And you know, for me, that was really where the spirit of this started. And I think the fans will soon see that in the comics and in the action figures, we're going to deliver exactly what you have always dreamed of.
I love it. That global collaboration should happen more often, especially nowadays. How about you, Tom?
I don't know that I have much more that I can add to that, apart from it's exactly what CB said, that this was trying to kind of build a bridge between the Bandai style, the Tamagotchi Nations style, and what Marvel does. And that's interesting to me. I've always had a fascination and a love for Japanese manga and anime, and on a purely personal and malicious level, I was hoping that by connecting with Bandai, I'd be able to get my hands on some Gunpla and be able to feed my habit that way.
Cool. Julian, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I think in terms of this project in particular, one of the things that at Tamashii Nations we were really excited about doing is, you know, just being able to create a new style of kind of playability with the figures. We always like to add on little pieces and little gimmicks. A lot of fans know us for our robot figures, in specific, say, for our Gundam figures that have little, you know, boosters and little, you know, armaments that you can add onto their arms, beam sabers, things like that. So to be able to kind of add that into a Marvel character was a pretty fun challenge for us.
Great, I'm sure our fans appreciate that insight. Now, in addition to the characters, our fans are dying to know about the design of the new suits. So the design for Iron Man has already been released, but today we're going to show you for the first time the concept design art for the normal suits of the characters besides Iron Man. So here's the world premiere of the Tech on Avengers normal suit concept art. So what do you guys, what do you think? What was your first thoughts when you saw these designs? CB?
I just remembered how awestruck I was, you know, to see these, because in your mind you expect one thing. And, you know, I've been a big fan of Japanese manga and anime and Bandai toys. So in my mind, I had a kind of a collaboration of something that, you know, that I mentally pictured. But seeing this and seeing the respect that Shimizu Sensei and Bandai paid to the original Marvel costume designs, but also how they enhance them in armored format. And you're going to see more that aren't in those designs. And it's very cool to show those that make them even more dynamic, I think, than that image even captures. And I just remember, they say, you know, we use jaw-dropping a lot, but literally those designs for us at Marvel were jaw-dropping. We literally sat there with our mouths open on, and drooling over everything that we saw on the page.
They really are that awesome. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, they're really tremendously wonderful, you know, technical drawings. They're super detailed. That they show a finesse of craft, and like CB said, a respect for the original design concept and aesthetic that those characters had even before them. You know, I have a background watching a lot of tokusatsu shows and things, so I look at them and I kind of go, oh, it's like the Avengers by way of the Metal Heroes, and it is a really good synthesis of those sorts of two approaches to character design, and I just think they're super cool looking.
And Julian?
Yeah, so at Bandai Spirits, we were actually working on these designs in different variations with Shimizu-san, but I really think they turned out kind of exactly as we were hoping they would. So as Tom was just mentioning, you know, we had these kind of ideas of incorporating little nods to the tokusatsu format of hero suits. So for example, you know, I want the fans to kind of look closely at those designs, and they might see little similar details here and there, say on their shins or their forearms, things like that, which you might see a lot in terms of, you know, the same kind of characters in one of the tokusatsu shows have sort of similar designs in their suits, but there's also sort of striking differences in the chests and the heads and things like that. And so I think we also managed to modernize the looks. So it's kind of homaging the old style of, you know, Japanese superheroes, but kind of bringing it forward to sort of a modern, high-tech look like that you usually see in the Iron Man comics, for example.
They're very individualistic as well, which is wonderful. It's not as though there was one design that was just sort of marginally adjusted or repainted or whatnot for each character. Each design was custom developed for that particular Marvel hero, and so all of the attributes and the things you might think of as relating to that character are really all in evidence in those designs.
Well, I'm sure everyone's going to love them. Now, one of the biggest features that Julian touched on is the DH10 mode that the suits have. Take a look at that. There they are. Now, this is the Iron Man in a DH10 mode. Julian, you mentioned it before. Can you tell us more exactly what the DH10 is all about?
Right. So in this series, as we mentioned at the outset, the heroes have kind of lost their powers, and so they have to wear these powered suits that Tony Stark developed to help them fight and to help them become, their hero Avenger selves again. And so basically, the suit has its base look, which kind of resembles Iron Man, but then they can use this DH10 mode for a limited amount of time, but it's kind of a mode where their suit opens up and then it kind of replicates their superpowered self from before they lost their powers. So for example, Iron Man here, he of course, this is his base form really as being Iron Man, but it kind of exaggerates that, and he has the boosters come out, he has a cannon come out of his arm, but some of the other characters like Cap, he'll have the shield that then becomes kind of his armor, and using the shield to kind of becoming the shield. Wolverine, with his claws, so things like that. You'll see how each of their DH10 modes kind of brings their powers back to their suit.
Now, you touched on it briefly before, but can you tell us a little bit more where DH10 comes from? What's the root of that term?
Right. So in Japanese, there's a word called dohatsuten, which is like when an animal kind of bristles in preparation for, an attack. Kind of, if you imagine, like a badger or a wolf, something where the hair on the back of their neck is kind of standing up. It's taken from that phrase, but it's sort of kind of the way where in these comics, the Avengers, when they're getting ready to battle, if they go into this mode, their panels all kind of open up and then they transform into this DH10 mode.
So if I'm not mistaken, Iron Man first appears in DH10 mode in Volume 2. So what is he able to do in the DH10 mode?
Well,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Julian. You do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll see a very big cannon blast, probably one of the biggest maybe in Marvel comics, and probably at least in my recent memory, but it's so very, very powerful.
And Tom, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. From a story point of view, the way the Dohatsuten mode works is the suits are powered by these shards of the shattered and dusted Infinity Stones, and so going into the Dohatsuten mode basically uses all the power in the suit at once. You get a little limited 10-minute window in which you are powered up mightily, at the end of which all of the power within that particular fragment or shard of the Infinity Stone is depleted. So it's a massive power up, but it's also got a limited duration of use. So it's got a drawback built into it as well as a benefit. I think of it, in my way, as it's the Hadoho, it's the wave motion gun.
And the 10 is 10 minutes.
And the 10 is 10 minutes.
Gotcha. All right. That is really interesting, and I'm sure the global fans are really going to appreciate that explanation. Thank you. Now, we've talked about Tech on Avengers projects so far, but I'm sure fans are eager to get their hands on comics and figures. We've received some questions and requests, so let me read a few of them. How long will the series run for?
The series will be 6 issues. The first issue just shipped. The second issue is shipping now in the United States, in English-speaking countries, and it will run for 6 monthly releases.
And CB, someone is asking, what is the inspiration when making a new story?
Well, the inspiration, for us is always, one, respecting the past and, making sure that we live up to the tenets and the morals of the Marvel Universe and our heroes, but creating a new story that is going to appeal to the widest, possible audience. And the other thing that was very important with a project like Avengers TechCon was to make sure that it's something that it was new reader friendly, that anyone, no matter what their experience with the Marvel Universe was, be it they were fans of the Marvel video games or the Marvel Cinematic Universe or, the Marvel comics, that anyone, if you've read Marvel or you might not, can pick up this comic and read it and enjoy it from start. It is an adventure that is all on its own, that is great for any Marvel fan or any non-Marvel fan to make them a new Marvel fan.
That's great. Now, Volume 1 is on sale. Could you please show everyone the Tech on Avengers #1? Do you have that handy?
I do not have issue 1 handy, but I do have the just received, newly printed issue #2
dun, dun,
with
dun.
Shimizu Sensei's wonderful.
Can you line it up there with your head?
Does that work?
Yeah, move it over. Move it to your left so that you line up with the cap figure.
The half face. He's referring to.
I see what you're saying. Do it this way.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Awesome. I hope everyone can see it. And now
Not only does this issue have a wonderful cover by Shimizu Sensei of Captain America, there's also a special variant cover that is here. Oh, sorry, this one. I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at the book of Iron Man in the DH10 mode by Peach Momoko.
Tom, what was your reaction when you saw these covers designs for the first time?
I've loved every single one. I haven't really had a chance because we haven't been in direct contact to tell Shimizu Sensei how much I've enjoyed his work, not just on the designs but on the individual covers, and how good and how sharp, how crisp I thought they looked, and that he's done a wonderful job. Also, he still owes me the 10th cover, and he had better not be late with that because 4,000 miles is nothing to me.
All right. Now, CB, can you please speak on the design process, the comic design?
I think that's actually, more of a question for Tom, who's the actual hands-on editor of the book that him and his team have put together, working with Julian and that team, working with Jim Zub, the writer, and Chamba, the artist, to create that kind of the storyline from the ground up.
All right. You want to speak on that, Tom? Yeah,
I can talk about that a little bit. Again, we sort of wanted to do something that reflected, at least in the broadest sense, the aesthetic and the style of the actual designs that Shimizu Sensei had done and his artwork. But again, retaining that Marvel essence. Jim, who is the writer, he's spent time in Japan. He worked with Bandai on other projects previously. And so he seemed to be a good person to be able to take the Bible that we had for the series, the outline of the overall story, and make it work as individual issues. And then he was the one who put me in contact with Chamba, who is an artist who had worked previously at Udon Studios, and who has not only a style that I thought was resonant and relevant to what we wanted, but also does every facet of the job. Typically in American comics, we might have a different creator doing the penciling and the inking and the coloring. But he, in fact, does all of that. And so his pages showcase a unified vision. And so they have a very specific and individualistic viewpoint to them. And thus they sort of stand out from everything else that's coming out right now.
Thank you. Now, CB showed us the variant cover. Could you just, for those of us who may not know, could you tell us a little bit about that? What's the variant covers all about?
So yeah, it's something that started, I want to say in the 90s more really came to popularity was, you would have a main cover done by the artist of the book or a main cover artist who was hired to create the art for the series. But with a variant cover is a sales tool to bring another popular artist in to offer a separate experience or twice the reading experience. So a fan could come in and have a choice which cover they like, or the ultimate goal is to make sure that they buy both covers. So we're giving them two options And recently we've also started doing exclusive covers with partners or shops or retail chains where they can also come in and get another variant cover. So some books might have 6 covers, some might have 10 covers, depending on the number of artists that we can find to illustrate and tackle the project with us.
Thank you for that. Now, Tom, you mentioned Jim Zub and Chamba. Could you tell the fans a little bit about them? Just a brief little bio on them.
Well, I did a little of that a second ago, but I'll try to do more. As I say, Jim, he's written Avengers for us before. He's maybe best known for his creator-owned series Wayward, which was set in Japan, that he and Steve Cummings did. He worked on a number of licensed properties, Dungeons and Dragons. He's written Conan the Barbarian for us. He's written The Champions for us. He's somebody whose skill set and reach and understanding, bridges the two worlds that we were trying to unite here. As somebody who'd had experience handling properties with Bandai before, and had experience in dealing with us and with Marvel, he seemed like an ideal person to take the underlying core story that we had and to expand it and to break it into individual issues and to finesse it. And that's turned out to be very nice, very well, worked very well.
And the artist, Chamba?
Again, I don't know too much about him beyond what I've already said. He had worked at Udon Studios with Eric Ko. Jim suggested him to me. Jim had worked with Udon Studios years ago as well, and so he was familiar with Chamba's style. He had previously done a Venom the End for us, so he had done some work for Marvel already. Jim really had a faith in what he did, and he sent me, put me in contact and sent me samples of his pages. And I was really knocked out by them, and I spent the time running around showing them to CB and convincing everybody that he would bring an approach to this project that would make it unique, which was something that I wanted to make sure that we hit. That this, for all that you want it to be a true Marvel project, you don't want it to just be a generic project. You want it to capture the essence and the specialness of the thing that we're doing. And I felt like his art style would allow us to achieve that.
Now, as we've mentioned, volumes.
One thing I would add to that too, actually,
please.
is we talked earlier about it. This being kind of an international collaboration, between Marvel and Bandai. But I think the other interesting aspect that bringing Jim and Chamba into the mix is Jim is in Canada and Chamba's down in Australia. So we're adding 2 more countries to this global kind of international mix that we're creating with TechCon Avengers.
That's a great point. Thank you for that. Now, as we mentioned before, volumes 1 and 2 are on sale now. They're in the stores. And I was wondering if there's a possibility that you can give us a few highlights. Maybe, Tom, do you have any teasers or anything you'd like to share with the fans?
Moving ahead, even beyond the list of characters that you have shared with the audience here, there are a number of additional villains who will be showing up. There'll be at least one, maybe more than one, hero that we have not talked about before, who's actually, when I kind of come down to it and you ask me for things like who's my favorite and whatnot, I really like the use of that character in this, but I can't talk about it yet because nobody knows. So there are some other surprises coming in future issues. The level of threat posed by the Red Skull and his organization will increase. The stress that the Avengers are under, and the links that they'll have to go to eke out a victory will get longer and longer, and hopefully it will all resolve in an amazing climax that will be mind-blowing and that will feel fully satisfying to people who have read all the way through.
I'm sure it will be. You mentioned future volumes. Have there been release dates set for those? Have you decided on those dates yet?
I don't have the exact dates in front of me. I'm sorry, but they were going to be monthly. So it launched in August. The second issue is now in September, and it's going to be monthly there. I think the third Wednesday of every month is when the new issue will be released.
So can you dial that in for number 3? Are you able to tell us when that's going to happen?
Should be right before Halloween, before American Halloween. So probably the third week of October. Again, don't know the exact date. I'm sorry.
No problem. So in addition to those questions, we are getting a lot of interest in what the figures will be all about. So people can't wait to see them. Mr. Konishi has brought an S.H.Figuarts prototype to the studio. Mr. Konishi Sensei, would you show it to us, please? Can you tell us something about
This
it?
is it.
はい。じゃあ、細かいこのフィギュアのポイントを説明いたします。
Okay, then let me give you just the detailed gist of this. May I use my handy camera to show you more?
Fancy.
これでちょっとじゃあ細かく見ていきます。
Okay, I guess now you can see all the details here.
はい。まず第一に、清水
So
先
first
生
and
のデザ
foremost,
インの魅力である、
based on
ハイ
Mr.
ディテール
Shimizu's
で、
design,
エッジのあるビジ
we
ュア
have
ルを、
based on the
今回
edgy,
外装に
highly
ABS という
intricate
硬質の
design.
プラスチッ
Based
ク
on
のパー
that,
ツを
we
使う
use
こと
the
で、
ABS
しっかり
material.
と、再現
It's a
して
plastic.
います。
And I think you would be
さ
able
ら
to
に、
see
清
that
水
this is
先
a
生は、
reflection
ア
of
クシ
the
ョンフィギュア
real
などにも
figure.
非常に造形が深いの
And
で、
Mr.
この
Shimizu
S.H.Figuarts
also
シリーズの
loves
テ
the
ックオン
figures as
の
well. Therefore,
物体物と
Tech
し
on
て
Avengers for this
非常に
Figuarts
説得力のあるデ
has
ザイ
now
ン
been
に
able to
な
be
っているかと
created
思いま
having
す。
a very good 3D design.
で、加えてですね、
On top of
外
that,
観はほぼ塗装
if you
で
look at
再
the
現することによって、スー
these
ツ
are
の
all painted.
今回アイアンマンのメタリック
And
な
as
ス
a
ーツ
result,
の質感を
the
リアルに再
metallic
現してお
feel,
ります。
the sheen
さらに
would be able to be
カラーリング
created.
に応じて細かく
And
艶の
based
コ
on
ン
the
トラストを
colors,
つけることによって
we have
本
created
物
a
のス
strong
ーツのような
contrast of the
佇まいを
sheens
再
among
現して
some
お
of
り
the
ます。
colors, so that this would
は
look
い、で、
quite real.
さらに加えてなんですけど、内部の素材などには、
when it comes to the
POM とダ
internal
イキャストを使用して、
we use
さら
the
に今
die
回
cast and
マシ
POM.
ネーションズを代表するメタル
And
ビルドなど
also,
の
we have
ロボ
the
ットフィギュ
metal
アブランドのノウハウ
built
を
as
取り入れ
well,
た
which we have
シー
cited
トを
from
採
the
用すること
robot
によって
builds.
非常に高い稼
So
働性能を
it's an introduction of some of the new materials which have given us some of the action
DH10 モー
performance.
ドのオプションパーツも非常
So
にボリュー
this,
ミー
there are
かなり
DH10 option
完成
parts
度の
as
高い
well.
フィギュアになってい
And
る
as
と
you can see, this is almost close to the perfection.
はい。じゃあ
That is so cool. Now, not only do I want to, it makes me want to play with that figure, it makes me want to be Iron Man. Shimizu Sensei, you were in charge of the character design. Could you speak about the design concept a little bit, please?
はい。
Sure.
まずそのトニー・スタークが
Now
作っ
first,
たっていうことを前
it's
提
been
に
made
考
or
えて
developed by Tony Stark, so
どういう
everything
ものを
started
作る
from
のか
there.
なっていうの
So
と、
if I were
まあ本
in
当に
Tony
今回
Stark's
の
mind,
キャラクタ
what would
ー
he
が
make?
もう
And
全員好
also,
きなキャラク
looking
ター
at
だ
all
った
the
ので、
characters, all the characters,
通常状
something that
態
I
と
love
DH10
very
で
much.
こうどう
So
変えようかなっていう
the
ところ
standard
と、
mode and DH10, how can I differentiate the
そのキャラ
two?
クター性
And that
を
has
失
been
わ
the
ない
beginning.
ように、
I also wanted
か
to
つこう
keep
パーソナルなところが
the
強調できる
uniqueness
よう
of
に
each and every
で気をつけ
character,
て
and at the
デ
same
ザインし
time
ました
can reinforce the personality of each one of them.
あ
Now,
とはもうキャラクターへの愛です。
And also, I have a strong love towards these figures or the characters.
so speaking of which, the design is in your head and in your heart. What was your impression when you first saw the actual figure, when you held it in your hands for the first time?
いやもう純粋に感動しました。
Well, I was just
ものすごい細かい
so
色分けしちゃったん
stunned.
で、
It was so
大丈夫なの
great.
かなっ
And
てすごい心配
actually,
した
I
ん
have
ですけど、
segmented all different
見事に再
colors.
現してい
So
た
I
だ
was a
い
little
て、
bit worried
もの
as
すご
to
い
how
気に入っ
much
てます。
that can be represented. But then I am so in love with them.
It seems like you're really happy with the way that they turned out, as we are too. Now, I asked CB earlier, but Mr. Shimizu and Mr. Konishi, do you guys have any favorite characters in the MCU?
僕はずっと僕もウルヴァリンが大好きで、
Well, Wolverine, that's my
で
favorite.
最近まあその後
And
はエージェントベノムが大好き。
Agent Venom is also one of my favorite as well. Well, in my case, Captain America is my favorite. But I like the fact that the Captain America changing into an Iron Man suit, and that was kind of interesting. And also in Tech 1 Avengers, although I won't be able to show it clearly, but there's a DH10 mode which is showing the personality of the character as part of the gimmick, so I think everyone can enjoy that.
Now, speaking of the DH10 mode, what are some of the key features of the figure?
May I?
Please.
The DH10 mode, I think earlier there was a little bit of an explanation there, but like arms and also gimmicks, and that can be transformed. You can switch it, and that's one of the uniqueness in this version as well. If I were to use this Iron Man as an example, this is now currently in the DH10 mode as we speak. So let me again use my handy camera to show you. For example, if you look at the left arm of his, there's a beam cannon. Down below, there's a thruster gimmick. And right by the shoulder and the head, DH10 mode has a different look. In case of Iron Man, one of the greatest uniqueness is the backpack in case of DH10 mode. In addition, for this particular version, does not have this, but there is a other effect parts that would be available, like the beam, and the rest of the gimmicks would come along with this. So it's going to be a different look with the other Marvel figures. So it's quite playful. You will be able to enjoy this, not just only as a toy, but then it's also give you more interest towards these characters.
Now, what else can you tell us about the other characters' DH mode designs? Can you share anything with us?
Well, let's see. Well, at this point in time, I cannot give you the details. But in terms of the development of the merchandise, Tamashii Nations is going to hold an event in November, which is 2021 online, and in there, the Tech 1 Avengers characters, some of the new info related to those characters can be revealed. So I want everyone to look into it.
I'm sure everyone understands. Thank you. Julian, could you talk about what you focused on for developing the figures and what you'd like the fans to really focus on when they actually pick them up themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I really wanted to kind of emphasize in particular with these figures is that we are releasing them as what we call our S.H.Figuarts brand, which is typically our hero brand, our human character brand. And of course, these characters are all humans in powered suits, but the actual mechanics and the actual way the figures are designed is a lot closer to what we usually do with our robot spirits and our metal robot spirits lines. And as Konishi mentioned too, our metal build series. So I think fans who know our robot figures will be very pleased. And I think fans who haven't yet bought our robot figures before, for example, maybe this will be their first experience with that, but I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised at the different way that the figures are constructed, you know, with the metal parts and the panels of the armor being separate from the base of the figure, and as opposed to say our typical human figures, which have, you know, some of the softer plastics kind of replicating like the skin and the texture of a fabric suit. So kind of structurally, I think people will be very excited by the way these figures are constructed. And so I think the gimmicks as well, the different effect pieces that can clip onto the powered to the DH10 armor parts, I think people are going to find the sort of the little hand play value that you can get out of just kind of manipulating all of the extra parts to be a nice kind of feature for this new Marvel series that we haven't really had, and then some of our other product lines that even our past Marvel figures for things like the MCU.
Great. Now, Iron Man is scheduled to go on sale in December of 2021. So for all of you out there, for more information, please visit tamashinations.com and make sure to keep your eyes out and open for more info. Julian, when can we expect to see the next S.H.Figuarts Tech on Avenger figures?
Hopefully soon. I would say early 2022. You want to be checking our websites again. And also, we are actually going to have an event coming up soon in Japan towards the end of the year, our annual Tamashii Nations. So please also check out our event pages that will be coming up later as the year progresses, and just keep an eye on our social media channels as well.
Great. Now we have a few more questions for our guests from our fans, so let me read them before we run out of time. Will we get releases for all characters? I really want to see Loki and Black Panther personally.
The short answer is we hope so. Yeah, we definitely hope so. So at Bandai, we always want to release as much as we can, and that depends on kind of the fan response too. So definitely, I think fans who want to see everybody come out in the line, please, help us out and try picking up Iron Man first, and let us know what you think, and we will definitely be trying to get everybody up.
And will we see villains also be made into characters? The whole range?
I hope so.
Great. Shimizu Sensei, can you talk a little bit about the design process of the characters?
Design?
You mean design?
Process?
Yes.
Process?
The fans want to know what is your process? How do you come up with your designs?
100% 愛ですよ。
Well, 100% love towards the characters.
結構企画が始まってから長かったんで、
Since its inception,
いろいろ2点
it
3
took
点
quite
し
a
た
while,
中で、
and
だ
plan
んだん自
changed
分の中でも
multiple times.
こういう方
And
向でいいのかな
so
っていうのを見
I
て、
was
でも
quite skeptical as to which direction I
とに
should
かくト
head
ニー・
towards
スターク
to.
が作っ
But
た
then
んだってい
it
うのを
was
すごく
developed
意
by
識しま
Tony
した。
Stark, so that was the basis of everything.
トニーだったらどうするのか
You
な
know,
とか、
what would Tony
ちょっとウルヴァリン
do
の
if I
スー
were
プになん
him?
か意地悪するのかなとか。
Is he going to be mean to Wolverine? So that was the thing that I started thinking of.
So one fan is asking, how long is your process when you create new characters like these?
ものにもよ
Let's
ります
see.
けど、
Well, that depends
でも
on the character.
今回テクノア
But
ベンジャー
for
ズ結構時
Tech
間
on
かかりましたね。
Avengers, it took quite long.
多分最初のアイアンマンが上がるまで
Maybe until the completion of the first Iron Man, I don't even remember how many times that I've rewritten.
仕事にもよりますけど、でも
So it depends on the project, though. I would
早ければ本
say
当1週間
at the earliest 1
かか
week,
んないぐらいで上げるも
or maybe less
の
than a
もあれ
week
ば、
sometimes.
本当にものによれば
But
半年
then
とかかかるも
sometimes
の
it
もあり
would
ます。
take more than 6 months.
Wow. All right, one fan wants to know if there are going to be any reveals of the other figures in the line coming up. Are we going to get some teases on social media?
Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned, look for our Tamashii Nations event coming up later this year, and definitely check that out. You don't want to miss that.
All right, well, this has been wonderful, and I really appreciate all of our guests' time today, but we are running out of time, unfortunately. So before we go, could each of our guests today give a message to our viewers and to our Tech on Avengers fans? Konishi-san?
では今日は、配信をご視聴いただきありがとうございました。
Well, everyone, thank you all
こ
very
のテ
much
クノ
for
アベンジャー
viewing
ズというプロジェクトは、
this
コミック
Tech
も
on
ストーリー
Avengers
も、非常
project.
に魅力
Both
的
comic
で、
as
マー
well
ベル
as
ファンも、
story,
日
everything
本
is all
の特撮であったり
attractive.
とか、
So
お
I'm
もちゃの
sure
ファ
that
ン
the
も皆さ
Marvel
んが楽しめ
fans
るも
or
の
the
であり、か
tokusatsu
つ
or
出てくる
toy
スーツの
fans,
デザインも素晴ら
I'm
しい。
sure would all be
で、
able
それ
to
に
have
負けない
fun.
ように、我々
The
セー
great
フィギュアスの企画
designs
スタッフも、
are going to
非
come.
常に
And so we
魂
on
を
the
込め
planner
て
side,
しっかりと
we
製
are
品を
putting
作
a
って
lot
おり
of
ますので、
spirit into
ぜ
it
ひ
when developing these
お
merchandises.
手に取っていただければ
So I
と
would
思います。
appreciate it if
あり
you
がとうござい
can
ます。
keep this in your
Thank you.
hand. Thank
Julian, what would you like to say to the fans?
Yeah, so I think if fans notice in the logo of our Tech on Avengers this time, it's the kanji in the background roughly translate to Iron Soul, Tekkon. And so, we've put a lot of our own soul at Tamashii Nations into this project, and I think fans will be pretty pleasantly surprised with the way the figures turn out, and I definitely think fans should look for them when Iron Man drops later in this year, and I think they'll very much enjoy the level of play value that each figure has.
Thank you. Shimizu Sensei?
はい。本当にコミックも
Well, I would say that I am also looking forward for the new comics to come, and the figures are much better than I originally expected. So all the fans can enjoy both of them. Then I'll be happy too. So thank you very much for inviting me today.
Thank you. Tom, what would you like to share?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the way this project has come together. I'm very pleased with the work that our Marvel team did on the comic, and I hope people read it and enjoy it and embrace it. And I think the figures are super cool. I think anybody that takes a look and checks them out will want to take them home with them. I'm certainly going to get a set of them for myself. So there's at least one sale, one guaranteed sale right here, right now.
2, for sure. CB, how would you like to wrap it up with a message to the fans?
Well, first off, I want to thank Julian and Konishi-san, everybody at Bandai, and also everyone at Disney Japan, because they were integral in helping this project come to life. We could not have brought this, made this dream a reality without everyone that worked so hard on the team. At Marvel, myself, Tom, everybody on our staff says it's comics by fans for fans. We're the biggest fans out there. We put our hearts and souls into everyone and every project that we do, just like we found all the people who work at Bandai do as well. And we hope that whether you're a toy fan, whether you're a comic book fan, a manga fan, a tokusatsu fan, no matter what kind of fan you are, there's some love from each of those genres that have been put into these Tekkon Avengers figures, and we hope that you will pick them up and enjoy them. And one thing we did not talk about that I just want to end on, there will also be a Japanese edition of the Tekkon Avengers comic that will be released. That news will be coming to you soon. We can't announce it just now or just yet, but stay tuned. You will be able to read the comic, follow the adventures of your favorite Avengers as they take on these amazing suits of armor in the DH-10 modes and battle the villains. And there will be the comics and toys on your shelf. And we thank you for making sure that you support Marvel going forward. Could not be happier with everything.
What a perfect way to wrap up the behind the cover Marvel's new comic sensation Tekkon Avengers event. Thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you to everyone who participated, and make sure to keep your eyes on the world of Tekkon Avengers. Everyone, thank you very much, and we all hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.